Everybody loves a good comeback story. So today we're taking a look at a brand that sort of made its comeback. This is the Omoda E5, or rather as it's known elsewhere, the Chery Omoda E5. And this time it's back in Singapore in the form of an electric SUV. Now let's find out if this car is worth the hype. Starting off in front, you get a very clean look similar to the Omoda C5 that we find in other markets. Of course, this being the electric version has no grille, so you get a very neat front fascia. Huge Omoda badging in this blackened strip, linking to its twin clawed daytime running lights. Follow that line and it'll link you down to its headlamp cluster, and then a little diffuser down below, almost making an X shape up front. Under the Omoda is a pop-up charger cover with a maximum 80 kilowatts DC fast charging. Now over by the side, the car measures 4x4 meters long and 1.6 meters tall. You can see the two-tone color contrast spreads out to the rest of the car. You're gonna get your cameras right here, and 18-inch rims in this singular trim at 61 kilowatt hours battery size. Now, if you move on to the rear, you can check out the rest of the stance of the car. It's very angular, almost leaning forward. If you check out our video with the chief designer, Steve Hume, right here, he talks a little bit more about how it's almost designed like a sprinter at the starting line or like a pouncing animal. Now, onto the rear. The Omoda E5 is priced at $180,000. The single electric motor produces 201 brake horsepower and 340 Newton meters of torque. The single-speed transmission brings the car from 0 to 100 km per hour in 7.6 seconds. The 61 kWh battery has a drive range of 430 km. For more details on the Omoda E5 or any other car, head on to sgcarmart.com to help you make the smart choice on your next car. Now the sportiness continues onto the rear with this large wing right here, sloping down, and you notice the colors kind of squeeze all your attention right into this middle bar here with a little mini wing spoiler and the Omoda badging with your rear taillight brake light. Open up the power tailgate to 380 liters worth of boot space, which is sizable, but for its competitor like the Atto 3, that's giving you 440 liters worth of boot space. Will this pass the anti-trolley length test? In this segment, actually, no, it won't pass the anti-trolley, not by a long shot. Now, this is the homologation unit, so underneath this boot floor is actually a spare tire, but for the units that you get from Vertex Automobile, it will be a tire repair kit. Of course, you're also going to get a V2L adapter, allowing you to use the electricity from the car to power your needs. Now, it's still gonna take in the luggage and anti-trolley, no problem at all, of course, and you're gonna find a little 12-volt charger right here. Now, let's check out the inside. Now over in the rear of the Omoda E5, I am 1.75 meters tall and I still get a little bit of headspace, of course owing to that kind of coupe SUV rear. Now things are very black, very chrome. You feel like it's a car, like a Continental car of the past. Even your doors here, you barely find any hard plastics. It's all nicely covered up, and even the Sony speakers here, yes, they're using a Sony system, is nicely textured and it gives it an air of class, adding on to that ambient lighting right here that can be toggled from the front. Oh, and one more thing with the speakers, there's a little bit of a LED housing around it because it also functions as your rear warning, so that if there's traffic coming from the outside, it actually flashes up in red to tell you not to open that door. Now, if there's nobody sitting in the middle, you can pull down this armrest with a little couple of drinks. Magazine holders are fully covered like this, and you're gonna get USB-A and USB-C charging at the rear with aircon vent, which is really important for Singapore weather. Now, if there's nobody, and rather if you want to squeeze onto the middle, there's actually almost no flat. It's almost a flat floor. There's a little bit of a raise, but it is very insignificant. So you can actually sit like this and squeeze in very comfortably, which is quite interesting because especially when you're thinking about the battery being down below, you are actually being seated like up a little bit, but still you can squeeze in like this. And if you think about the car from the outside, it's quite impressive with what they've done with the space. Now, onto the front. Now, over in the front of the Omoda E5, things are decidedly familiar, not in the sense that you've known this brand before, but in the sense that the way things are placed and finished seem very familiar, and it hints you back to the time where certain Continental makes were kind of like this, finished with metal textures and this lacquered wood interior and leather soft touch points. Things you can certainly tell what they're trying to emulate, and I think they're doing rather well. Now, certain things, you know, it feels like, I feel like the leather could be softer, but other than that, it's very nice to look at. Things are very cozy. You get dark colors, you get chrome, you get soft touch here, and then you get a lighter gray up on top. So speaking of up on top, you have a sunroof, which can be open right here, but this little button is a little bit annoying because it's like leftover from a design, like it doesn't do anything. Down here, you get your mirrors. It's a very unique design with the light inbuilt, and it just folds out and sticks back magnetically. Very nicely done. Over here is a huge 24.6-inch screen, as they say, which comprises of two 10-plus-inch. One is your instrument system and one is your infotainment system with wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. The design is a little bit, it's nice, it's sharp. I appreciate the design. So even things when you're changing your drive mode, you get a nice little animation here, but I feel like it's lacking in a certain refinement, but I do appreciate the effort that they've put into for all these animations. Now, moving down here, you don't get many physical buttons for your aircon control whatsoever, but it's nice to have physical vents right here, opening and closing. It really brings it to a nice sort of finish. This is something I'm particularly not a big fan of. I feel like I would like it if it's just, you know, plain this lacquered wood material, just without this etching here. But that's just me. Of course, here you have your ambient light system going through the sides as well, which can be toggled through the screen up here. And speaking of the screen, there are plenty of features inside here, like scene mode. So there's something called invigorating mode, camping mode. I assume camping mode is when you want to stop this electric vehicle and just, you know, chill by the beach side or what. You can have that. And then you also get AVM, which I believe is your image, so you can see your front cameras, rear camera, 3D recreation of the car to help with your parking. Everything fits inside here. It would be nicer if it's one big screen, but of course that would drive up the cost. It has wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Moving down here, this is a shared platform with other petrol vehicles, so this might be rather familiar, but you can open this up for a wireless charger, because I've always said that wireless charging goes really well with wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. But I think this one is kind of the next level up because it has a cooling vent, because it's using 50-watt wireless charging, which gives you fast wireless charging. And when you're using wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, it really drains quite a lot and it might turn your phone a little bit hot. So this pairs really nicely a cooling, fast charging wireless place. And then you can close it so it doesn't fly all around the cabin. Down here, you get two cup holders large enough for a tumbler, and then a few buttons here for your aircon turning on, turning off, whether you want to, the defoggers on, your hazard light, as well as your drive mode. And then down here is a nice little cubby space that opens up very nicely. This is a nice finish to this. And then open up one more cubby space down here with an aircon vent inside, so if you have some, I don't know, drinks or sandwiches you want to keep cool, you can stuff them inside here. And then down here, you have a little bit of a floating space with your USB charger and your USB control if you want to plug in for your Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. Now, the rest of the cabin is rather nice. I do wish the seats are a little bit more comfortable. This particular unit is a homologation unit, so unfortunately, they only have heated seats, but for the local units, they will be fitted with ventilated seats, so that's a nice touch. Now, does this car drive as well as it looks? One way to find out. So driving the Omoda E5, what does it feel like? Well, I have to admit that initially I did have a little bit of bias, because growing up, I've grown through the Chery times, so the time that Chery was here, Chery QQ. I remember all of that, and knowing that this car comes from the Chery group, I had a certain expectation. But driving this car over the past few days, I tell you, it has widened my perspective. Like, it's not something that you think from the same group as the Chery of before. This car delivers, and it's widened my perspective. It drives beautifully. It is done well inside. You get two massive screens with very nicely designed menus. You get a good bunch of safety systems. Like on my screen right here, I'm getting an ADAS that is almost like a Tesla level. Like, I'm seeing my lane markings, I'm seeing the curve of the road, I'm seeing cars or obstacles come up on my blind spot, whether it's my left lane, my right lane, and it even differentiates between cars, vans, lorries, and motorcycles. So that is something that is really one of the things that I like about these kind of the technology inside a car like this. In fact, to me, it's just a little bit behind the Tesla in terms of how accurate it is, but still very, very useful. So, I can see if there's a car coming up on my blind spot, it will actually light up and alert me, hey, if you want to change, be careful, there's a car there, like it's showing right now. And that's not to say that, you can change your lane without checking anymore. You're still going to get blind spot monitoring, which is going to trigger on your side mirrors. And it's still going to get all of the safety systems. You get lane keeping assist, you get front collision avoidance. This is a very, very easy to drive, very safe car. Now, speaking of easy to drive, this car is powered by some 200 brake horsepower and 370 Newton meters of torque. So it gives you access to very, very vast amount of power for this price range, for this segment. You just, anytime that you need, you go into sport mode and it just picks up like the wind. It's not a dual motor blazer, but it still has plenty of oomph when you need it. Now, in terms of noise vibration handling, I think going now at about 70, you do hear a little bit of road noise, but I think it's going to be muted out when you're having your radio or your entertainment on. I do feel that if they improve that a little bit, then it really blends together all of what this Omoda is trying to achieve. Because if you look through the video, you see all of this. They're trying to make it seem like what you would think of a Continental car of the past, what you would think of your classic BMs and your classic Mercedeses. That is exactly what it's trying to put forth. I feel you have all these kind of metal etchings, trimmings on the door, you have soft touch material all around. Like, this is not a dedicated EV platform, so in the middle you do get this rather large console, but it's at a height that's done very well. So your elbow rests here on the soft touch material, and then even this little cubby space right here, you can check it out. It's the things that they put inside, it's motorized very nicely, so it really makes you feel like this is an upmarket thing. Now, in terms of handling, this car actually has a lot of variability. It gives you brake pedal modulation in addition to how much regenerative braking that you want. Of course, there's going to be sport, normal and eco mode when you're driving to give you how much control of the acceleration pedal that you want. It is a fast car, it is plenty of oomph. It's 0 to 100 is something like 7.6 seconds, which is very fun for an everyday car, but it also isn't made to be a super sports car. So I can say that you can throw this around a corner at enough speed. It still gives you that confidence to tap in a little bit more to make use of that instant power, and you extract a little bit more joy out of that. But it's not something that, it's not made to, say, like a performance brand. Perhaps someday they'll release a more performance-oriented version, but that's not to say that you won't have fun with this. Like right now, it's a good amount of power, it's a good amount of feedback. The steering, it's not the most direct. There is a little hint of vagueness, but at least there's that variability when you want comfort mode. Now I've set it into sport mode. I think it's a lot more communicative, this steering. So I like it in this mode. Now, in terms of comfort, I think this car, it soaks up the bumps really well. It can go over humps quite quickly. I think that's quite common of a trait of EV because the center of gravity and the battery is pulling it down low. So it's still rather comfortable, but I think I get that they're trying to go for like the luxury feel, but I feel like if they did up the seats a little bit more cushily, a little bit more comfy in the seats, it would be like chef's kiss. Like, it's not horrible, it's good right now, but if they just went that little bit more, I feel like it would just match everything and it would just be such a comfortable, something you just sink into every day. Like certain luxury brands that you just know that feeling when you get into a car, you sit down and then you just lay and it envelops you and the world goes on around you and you are without a care in the world. That's just a little bit more I would have liked to ask. Maybe a trim with a nicer leather finish on the seats, that would be really perfect. So, is the Omoda E5 a will buy, won't buy, or go try? Well, if you ask me, this car is a go try. Number one, because this car, while it does present itself at a very unique value proposition, it still goes up against some rather stiff competition. Number one, straight off the top of your mind, 180,000 going up against the Atto 3 Cat B variant, which has been like one of the best selling in Singapore. But this does come in slightly a little bit cheaper. And I would have to say, like, in terms of the finish, this is a more traditional finish. This is something that you would typically think of from the cars of the past. So it does feel a lot more familiar. It feels more like a car than, I would say, the Atto 3. This is undercut by some of the other Chinese electric cars in the market, but for 180,000, it is very feature-packed. It does give you a very nice feel within the car. I feel like if you want to go for something that's more luxury, more old school, this is the perfect car for you. Yet, with the EV power, with the EV speed, and at a reasonable price in this current COE climate. That's why I think this car is a go try. Now, if you're looking at competitors, there's also the Atto 3 Cat B. There are also various Chinese EVs and Cat A electric vehicle SUV crossover models that are slightly cheaper, but apples to apples, Cat B to Cat B, this thing is putting up a pretty good argument. So that's why I think this car, for me, is a go try. So that's it for our review of the Omoda E5. What do you think? Do you agree with us? Do you disagree with us? Let us know down in the comments below. As well as any other car that you'd like to see us try out, do leave it in the comments and I'll read every single one of these. Now, if you've made it this far, don't forget to like, share and subscribe and hit the bell notification icon so you don't miss any of our future uploads. And lastly, do follow us on TikTok. We are at SGKarma. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Just fart lah. It's normal for people to fart. Why are you scared? You don't fart, man. It's like, girl, oh my god, later you see my bra. Like, huh? You don't wear bra. Do you fart? I never heard you fart.
I did.
How about I think later you can go gym straight.